Hi, in this video we're going to take a quick exploration of circles. You've been using circles for a long time, so most of the stuff will come pretty naturally to you, but there may be some terms or ideas that you're still learning, so hopefully this will be a bit of a reminder for you. Take a look at this circle. It's actually got a lot more pieces and parts than we might have thought about initially. What's really crucial when we look at a circle is to look at the circumference. The circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle, all the way around. It's going to be really crucial to what we look at here. Also, really important are the diameter and radius. The diameter and radius have a connection because diameter is the length from one edge of the circle straight through the middle to the other edge, and the radius is half of that distance, the distance from the edge just to the center of the circle. So the radius is always half of the diameter, and the diameter is always twice the distance of the radius. If we want to find out the circumference, we can use either the radius or the diameter to help us do that. And when we do that, we have to introduce the idea of pi. Pi is a symbol that stands for the number sequence 3.14, and actually it goes on from there. Why such a random number, 3.14? Well, mathematicians early on realized that when they were looking at the circumference of a circle, the circumference was always the diameter multiplied by 3.14. If they took their circumference, divided it by the diameter, they got 3.14. That also meant that if they were looking at the radius, it was that same thing except twice the radius, because twice the radius is the diameter. So for example, if I want to find the circumference and I have the diameter, I use this formula right here, because this formula is simply the circumference equals pi times the diameter, just like those early mathematicians found. If I don't have the diameter, I can use the radius either by doubling the radius and using this original formula, or using this version here, which is simply 2 times pi times r. 2 times pi times r is the same thing as saying pi times d, pi times diameter, because 2 times the radius is the diameter. Let's do a test to see. If my diameter equals 10 and my radius equals 5, let's do some quick calculations. Circumference equals pi times 10, and circumference equals 2 times pi times 5. Over here, the circumference will equal 3.14 times 10, which equals 31.4. Over here, the circumference will equal 2 times 3.14 times 5, and all of that together will equal 31.4. Same measurement. So these two formulas are equal to each other, but they highlight either the diameter or the radius. What's really great about these formulas is that I can also work backwards. So if I can figure out the circumference of a circle, I can use that to help me figure out the diameter or radius without even needing to measure it. So for example, if the circumference is 52 and I want to find the diameter, then what I'm going to do is write down 52, which is my circumference, sort of hiding there, equals pi times d, pi times diameter. Then, to isolate the diameter and figure out what it is, I simply have to get rid of the pi. How I do that is I divide pi by itself, because remember when you divide a number by itself it just turns into 1, so it sort of becomes nothing when it multiplies with the d. And because we're on an equal sign, I have to divide 52 also by pi. How does that look? Well, realistically what happens is I wind up with 52 divided by 3.14 equals d. Why? Well, when I divide pi by pi, it turns into a 1. So it's like d times 1. And we know that any number times 1 is just going to stay itself. 52 divided by 3.14 equals 16.56. And yes, I did use a calculator for that math, and I hope you do too. and that equals d. So the diameter of that particular circle equals 16.56. If I wanted to find the radius instead, 52 would now equal 2 times pi times r. So what I would do first is I would divide 52 by 2 and divide 2 by 2 to get rid of it. 52 divided by 2 equals 26, so 26 equals pi times r. Then I would divide both of these numbers by pi. That would get rid of the pi symbol. 26 divided by 3.14 equals 8.28, and so my radius would be 8.28, which would equal r, radius. And how I know I'm correct, because if I multiply 8.28 times 2, it will equal 16.56. So using my circumference formula, I was able to figure out what the diameter would be and what the radius would be for any other number.